Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that literally affects every single one of us who has ever set foot in a classroom, logged into an online portal, or honestly just tried to master a new skill. We are breaking down the incredibly dynamic world of higher education methodology. Specifically, we're going to look at the 8 distinct teaching methods that actively shape how human minds actually learn.
But before we get into the nuts and bolts, I want you to picture something. You know the classic university setup, right? A massive, echoing stadium auditorium. You've got hundreds of students furiously typing away while a solitary professor delivers a continuous hour-long monologue. Now that classic sage on the stage format is iconic and, let's be real, occasionally a little sleep-inducing. But it begs a massive question for us today. Is the traditional college lecture dead, or does it actually still hold a vital place in how we learn?
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our structural blueprint for today so you know exactly where we're headed. First, we're looking at the modern educator's toolbox. Then we'll contrast teacher-centered, sage on the stage, with learner-centered, guide on the side. Next, we hit the digital classroom revolution. And finally, we'll wrap up with matching methods to objectives.
Section 1. The Modern Educator's Toolbox.
You know, we often think of teaching as this super rigid ideology, like you either teach this way or that way. But honestly, great teaching is really just about having a diverse toolbox. In higher education, instructors actually have 8 distinct methods at their disposal. That's 8 completely different levers they can pull. We're going to see exactly how these categorize into broader philosophies, and as you'll see, it totally proves there is no single right way to teach.
Moving right along to Section 2, Teacher-Centered Teaching, otherwise known as the sage on the stage.
Let's step back in time just a bit to a paradigm built heavily on authority and structure, and this brilliantly illustrates a fundamental split in educational theory. On one hand, you've got the teacher-centered philosophy. This is where the instructor curates and delivers the knowledge, and the student simply receives it. But on the exact opposite side is the learner-centered philosophy, where students are actually out there constructing knowledge actively. Understanding this massive divide is absolutely crucial to grasping our 8 methods.
So within that older teacher-centered camp, we've got 2 primary go-to tools. First is the lecture method. It's exactly what it sounds like, right? The highly structured oral transmission of facts. But then you have the demonstration, which relies heavily on visual evidence. Think of that classic chemistry professor mixing volatile smoking liquids, or a mechanical engineer physically snapping a steel beam in half to show stress points.
Now, I know these methods get a bit of a bad rap these days, but we have to remember they are highly engineered tools. Take the lecture. Its absolute superpower is efficiency. I mean, you are blasting foundational facts to a massive audience all at once. The kryptonite? Well, it's completely passive, and attention spans can drop like a rock. You want to use it mostly to establish ground rules. The demonstration, on the other hand, brings abstract, boring concepts to vibrant life, really anchoring them in your memory. But actually, scratch that. The downside is it's incredibly resource-heavy. You really only deploy a demonstration when a concept absolutely demands visual proof. See, neither of these are bad. They're just highly specific.
All right, Section 3, Learner-Centered Teaching, or the guide on the side.
If that last section was all about broadcasting, well, let's swing the pendulum entirely the other way. This is all about interactive exchange. This is where the instructor steps down from the podium and walks right amongst the students. We've got 4 incredible methods here that literally put the student in the driver's seat. First up, discussion. This is rigorous peer debate that forces students to actually defend their logic. Second, project-based learning. This mimics the real-world workplace by having students build tangible, real outcomes. Third is inquiry-based learning, which is basically handing students a complex puzzle and making them hunt for the answer themselves. And finally, the massive trend of the flipped classroom. This is huge. Students watch the boring lecture at home, and the actual classroom becomes a dynamic laboratory for homework, projects, and hands-on application.
Section 4. The Digital Classroom Revolution.
Up to this point, we've really been breaking down how to teach. But now we have to literally break through the physical walls of the classroom itself. We are looking at a monumental shift right now. We're moving from location-bound, hands-on, offline education to the massive, totally borderless world of online delivery. This brings us asynchronous flexibility in infinite scale. But here's the thing. Online education isn't just one monolithic concept.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how massive online platforms are completely reshaping global access. I mean, we've all heard of MOOCs, right? Massive open online courses. They're the broad standard for teaching thousands of people at once over the internet. But the brilliant regional implementations are what's truly fascinating. Take India's Swayam initiative, for example. It's a massive indigenous platform specifically designed to bridge the digital divide for disadvantaged students. And then there's Swayam Prabha, which pivots beautifully. It actually uses direct-to-home satellite television channels to broadcast high-quality education 24/7. So it completely bypasses the need for high-speed internet altogether. It's a real game changer.
Section 5. Matching methods to objectives.
This right here is the absolute climax of our explainer. Because think about it. If you're staring down at this massive toolbox of 8 physical and digital methods, which lever do you actually pull? Well, the secret to Coder Ring is just one word: alignment. No single method is inherently right or wrong in a vacuum. Success relies 100% on aligning your teaching method with a specific learning objective. If you pick the wrong tool, the whole learning experience just shatters.
Let's move to and see how this builds using Bloom's taxonomy, which is basically the gold standard for learning objectives. I want you to imagine it like a staircase of cognitive complexity. Right at the bottom, you have basic recall. If you just need students to remember historical dates, boom, a teacher-centered lecture is perfect. But as you climb up those steps to application, analysis, and finally creation at the very top, a lecture entirely fails. You literally cannot lecture someone into inventing new software. For those higher steps, you absolutely must deploy learner-centered methods, like project or inquiry-based learning. The objective always dictates the method.
Which leads us directly to this incredibly powerful takeaway. Stop teaching on autopilot. Start deliberately designing. Whether you're an educator who is currently outlining a new syllabus, or, hey, maybe you're a student just trying to hack your own study habits, we have to move past the default settings. You now know there are 8 distinct methods scattered across physical and digital spaces. We need to start using them intentionally.
So I'm going to leave you with one final provocative thought. Looking back at everything we've uncovered today, the authoritative lectures, the hands-on projects, the massive digital networks, which method will you bring to your next lesson? Are you going to be the sage, or are you going to be the guide? I highly encourage you to apply this framework the very next time you set out to learn or explain something brand new. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. And hey, keep designing incredible learning experiences.